everyone, welcome to a poker vlog with a bit of a difference. Poker with kids.
Fuck it, let's go. Don't tease me. Let's play some fucking cards. He beats me. Straight up. Pay him. Pay that man his money.
At this stage, I haven't actually got any specific plans for the blog. I'll just see how it develops over time. But I thought it'd be something fun and interesting to start. One of the things that I thought would be a bit different about vlogging that I was doing was being a father of two young kids. I really don't have the time to devote to actually playing poker that most of the other people that you see doing poker vlogs are. So a little bit of a different twist on poker, I suppose, is what you could expect from my upcoming vlogs, hopefully even the first one. Another thing that I've been considering is I have been to the World Series. I went there in 2010, played in a couple of events and played in a lot of events in other places around Las Vegas while the World Series was on. But I'm actually hopeful of getting back to the World Series in 2019 for the 50th year of the World Series. I'm expecting that to be one of, if not the biggest ever event they've had, probably with a number of special promotions and that type of thing. So I'd really like to get there for that event, and I guess this will be some sort of a journal documenting my progress in poker up until that point, and hopefully you'll be able to see the progress, and that'll have a happy outcome in Vegas if everything goes to plan. In terms of other vlogs that are around the place on YouTube and the like, they have influenced me somewhat in terms of how I'm going to sort of make this vlog, and maybe not necessarily content-wise or style-wise, but I've had some sort of influence, or vlogs that I watch sort of when new vlogs come up. In particular, Andrew Neeme, his vlog that's done mostly around playing poker in Las Vegas. Not only is it really good as a educational tool and learning some things from how he plays and how he talks through hand breakdowns and hand descriptions, but he's also very good with camera work, lovely scenery of Las Vegas and some of the other places that he's visited playing poker. So really enjoy watching his vlogs. Daniel Negreanu's vlogs, in particular, the ones that he did at the most recent World Series, where he's actually going through his daily routines and schedules and how he did in each event, especially given that he played such a busy schedule this year, quite a number of events, and obviously did reasonably well in the series as a whole. Those ones were, again, entertaining as well as a really good learning tool as well. Some other pros that put out videos on YouTube, these two don't actually get along, or it seems like they don't get along. Doug Polk and Alec Torelli, both very good players, both well worth learning some things from, even if they don't quite get along, based on a Poker Night in America session that Alec was playing in, where there was some apparent angle shoot, or at least Doug thought there was. But both of their vlog content is very, very educational, very good for learning, and well worth a look if you're thinking about things to do. I'll put links to all these down below in the description. Also, Bart Hansen, I've been following him on and off from his days of Poker Road Radio, when he used to do that and the various offshoots that came from there. Now he's running his own site, Crush Live Poker, and all that content that's available there seems to be really, really good. In terms of some amateurs that are doing this kind of thing on YouTube, there's a couple of local Australian ones that I've started watching recently. Swiper from Sydney, he's putting out some entertaining vlogs. Also good to see the Sydney Poker Room. Haven't been up there for a while, but good to see the Sydney Poker Room in its one of many reincarnations that it had. I think this might finally be a permanent location for it. Good to see that that's doing well up there in Sydney. Also Mark Martin from Adelaide and his adventures in poker playing in Adelaide. Also from America, young guy goes by the name of Dopebag in Los Angeles. He's put out some interesting vlogs as well, so I like to watch those when I can. Hopefully, my vlog will be something that you'll also want to watch in the future, so hopefully you can subscribe and check out future content that I put out. One thing that'll hopefully be a bit different about my vlog from other poker vlogs you might see is that No Limit Hold'em really isn't my main interest in poker, although I do obviously play No Limit Hold'em, you pretty much have to these days, but I'd much rather play mixed games, horse, 8-game, that sort of thing. So hopefully in the future you'll be able to see some content with stud hands, high-low split, that type of thing that you don't really see very much these days. Most of their content is No Limit Hold'em. Every now and again you might see someone that plays a bit of Pot Limit Omaha, someone like, say, Check Raise Charles, but the majority of poker vlogging is done with No Limit Hold'em with the masses in mind. So hopefully a little bit of a difference. Hopefully I can bring in some mixed game content and see what people think of that. But that's where my main interest lies in terms of poker. Somewhere a little bit off the beaten track, as you might say. Anyway, let's get to some poker content. I was fortunate enough recently to get a night off to go and play some poker from the wife. So being a Friday night, I decided to head to Boronia to Hoop Sports Bar, where I used to actually host the 888PL Friday freeze out that they hold there. Obviously, I haven't been doing that for the last few months since the little one came along, been spending some time at home helping look after her of an evening. So with the night off, thought I'd head over to Boronia, go and play in that $15 Friday night freeze out. So let's go see how that turned out. Okay, so quickly, just before we get to how the night turned out, just want to quickly run through how these pub poker tournaments work, at least here in Australia. Basically, the idea here is for a venue that hosts the event, they want to find a way to get more people into a venue, and the idea is once they're in there, they'll then spend money on food, drinks, that type of thing. So what's often done at these poker events is you'll enter the tournament, you get a card. If you spend a certain amount of money at the bar, buying food, that type of thing, you then get extra chips later on in the tournament. Majority of venues in Australia do that. Hoops is a little bit different and doesn't do that. They run a freeze-out tournament where you start with a starting stack, and it's a 50k starting stack at Hoops, with the blind starting at 100, 200. Sounds very generous, 250 big blind start stack, but it's a turbo structure with only 12-minute levels. Again, the idea here isn't to run a fantastic poker tournament. It's about getting people into the venue, getting them spending money at the venue, buying drinks, buying food, that sort of thing, and having a good night out while they're there. An event that runs for 3-4 hours, that type of thing. As for the night itself, we had 64 players playing, and I walked away as the winner. Got a bit lucky on the way through, but that's what you have to do sometimes in these events. And yeah, can't complain about the return to Hoops and how it turned out. Before we get to any specific hands, I wanted to run through a few little general tips that I found useful for these type of events, and something that'll help you navigate through these big fields and turbo structures. First one is trying to avoid tough spots. What I mean by that is trying to understand where your opponent is or what type of range of hands they might have at all times, rather than just being in a situation where you're essentially guessing about what they might have. Try and avoid those situations where you can. Related to that one, try and, if you're coming into a pot, try and come in for a raise rather than calling more often than not. It'll again help define your opponent's hand, at least somewhat, but it'll also give you another chance to win the pot. Again, remember, if you raise, there's two ways to win the pot. You could have the best hand, or your opponents could fold. If you call, the only way you're going to win the hand is by having the best hand. Another tip, especially in the early stages of tournaments, it's really counterintuitive somewhat, but the idea of playing fit or fold poker, especially in the early stages, you find a lot of people that basically don't fold. They'll call with ace high, king high on random boards. So what you might find at some other events where c-bets often get through, where you can say, okay, I have this type of board where the vast majority of people are going to miss it. I can c-bet, take the board down because I was a pre-flop aggressor. Often you'll find that in these pub poker games, people just simply call you down with any kind of hand. So even though it does seem a bit counterintuitive to play fit or fold, especially early on, it is about saving chips. And by the same token, players will call you down lightly. So when you do have hand that you're betting for value, you do get paid off in many occasions, and you are able to chip up effectively when you do have your good hands. Another factor in these events that really applies to any poker tournament is about trying to win flips. Obviously, winning flips is out of your hands, but if you're able to win those flips, obviously you'll stay alive in the tournament and increase your chip stack. Again, if you can avoid the spots as much as possible, but if you do get in a situation where you do have to get into a flip, try and win them, find a way to win them. That way you stay in the tournament and obviously accumulate chips as you go. And the final tip, especially in these types of tournaments, because the structure is so fast, when you get to things like the final table, players are playing with relatively short stacks. Someone that might have let's say, 10 big blind stack, that's considered a big stack by these tournament standards. So you are very much playing in short stack poker territory. So just be prepared for that type of thing, and by the same token, be prepared for the stacks to change. You only need one or two hands, and all of a sudden the short stack can become the big stack, or vice versa. The big stack can be the short stacker out of the tournament altogether. So just keep those tips in mind when you're playing those events, and see if they help you when you're playing your own event next. Something I thought that would be interesting to look at is a couple of hands from the final table, and in particular how some players misplayed their hands. And it's something that proved very costly for those players, but just in general terms, the type of mistakes that you'll see at these kind of events. In this situation, we're playing 8-handed. We started out as a 9-handed final table, blinds at 30 and 60,000, so pretty big relative to the stacks that you see at the table. They're only approximate stacks, but they're about roughly what I think they were at the time. Anyway, action started off with player under the gun, all in for 170,000, and the player to their immediate left raising over the top for around 400,000. One thing to note about this player is on the previous hand, they were a short stack and they'd actually tripled up. So that player really unlikely to then put those chips back into the pot so soon unless they did have a really strong hand. I was to their left, found myself with pocket sixes and decided to fold. The player behind, who was the big stack at the table, he also went all in. And it's the player here in seat 3 that makes the big mistake. After all this action, the 3 all-ins in front of them, they also decided to go all in this situation. We'll find out the hand in a minute. The other players got out of the way, and we see the cards. Our first all-in was Queen Jack. So short stack, Queen Jack, 2 face cards, not such a bad play in itself to go all in. See if you can find a way to win some chips, maybe get people to fold and increase the stack somewhat. Obviously, the player with the aces, again, they're the player that just tripled up from the short stack. Nothing wrong, obviously, with their play. The big stack with ace king suited, understandable play, maybe not giving that player quite the credit that you probably should have given, but even against that hand, it's really only aces that you're worried about, and the player would be doing that same kind of thing with a hand like queens or kings or jacks. So ace king suited, more than happy with that play. But the pocket sixes after those 3 all-ins in front, serious mistake, and in this case, it cost them their tournament life. They obviously lost. The main pot went to the aces, the side pot went to the big stack of the ace king on the king high board, and that play with pocket sixes was eliminated in a situation where they really should have just folded pre-flop. And this is the second hand that I wanted to run through. By this stage, we're down to 6-handed, blinds up to 40 and 80,000. And the mistake here is made by the player under the gun. They've decided to limp into the pot, as it turns out, with King Queen offsuit. And the problem is, once they've limped into the pot, that then starts the limping train, where every player after them, I was actually the small blind here, I was the only player that actually folded, and we actually had a flop that went 5 ways to the flop. The big problem here is that there's no way to actually define where you stand in the hand. So all players are really just guessing where they are in the hand, hoping that they can hit the flop, and then again hope that they're good in terms of what happens. As it turns out, the board comes down to king high, but it's all diamonds. The checks the under gun player who bets 200,000. The player behind them shoves all in. Everybody else folds. The player that had made the bet of 200,000 bets, they end up calling. They show king queen. The player that had shoved all in over the top actually went all in with 10-3 of diamonds, so they flopped the flush. However, this hand could have played out very differently. Imagine the player with the king queen either made a raise of, say, 175 pre-flop, or in fact, given that they only have a 400k stack, 5 big blinds shoved all in. 10-3 suited is not going to call them. Pretty good chance that not many other players are going to call them either. They happily take down the pot pre-flop. Win blinds are going to keep them in for another round. Even if somebody calls them on a king high flop, the fact that they've eliminated hands like 10-3 suited means that there's more likely a chance that their king high top pair with a decent kicker could be the best hand. But you've done, by raising pre-flop, you find ways to define not only your hand but your opponent's hand, and get those hands like 10-3 suited out of the way, so that you're not going to be quite as worried about people flopping flushes on monotone boards like the one we have here. Further interesting development. After the tournament, I spoke to my wife when I came home. She's given me the okay to play at least one event locally, albeit not somewhere like the casino, which is about a 45 to an hour drive from my place. And she's also approved, at least provisionally, the idea of running a home game maybe once a month. So hopefully that'll provide not only some entertainment but also some content for the vlog. See how that goes. A bit unfortunate about missing out on some casino poker, but I suppose that's the type of thing you need to sacrifice with a young family. But it is a bit unfortunate to have to miss out on the Aussie Millions and the events around here, given that they're coming up very, very soon. That's going to wrap up vlog number 1 of Poker with Kids. Hopefully you enjoy the video. Hopefully you subscribe to the channel, come back for more, and I'll hopefully be able to get some more content out in the coming days and weeks. Thanks for watching.